Welcome back. Mount Royal's iconic view of the city could soon be changing as Montreal prepares to redevelop a huge area near downtown that serves as an entrance to the city. One group of builders, landowners, and architects are proposing 4 40-story buildings that would be located between the St. Lawrence River and the Mount Royal. But now, Heritage Montreal is speaking out, saying that it would be a mistake to allow tall towers to dominate the skyline of the future Bridge Bonaventure neighborhood. Joining us is Dinu Bumbaru, Director of Policy at Heritage Montreal. Good to talk to you, Dinu.
Good morning, David.
So, what exactly is the problem with condo towers at Bridge Bonaventure? Because, and I understand about the Mount Royal, but where I want to get to, and I'll tell you right away, we continue the conversation after that, is there are a lot of questions right now in Montreal about the housing crisis, about density and climate change. So if we don't densify a place like Bridge Bonaventure because we want to keep the views and the Mount Royal as a special place, how do we manage all that? So first of all, what's your position on this particular topic?
Well, we're absolutely in agreement with the issue of housing. You know, and these are social concerns that require real and urgent attention. But frankly, last year we had a public exchange, a city talk with the McCord Museum on the issue of densification. And what came out from the public's comment is that usually the kind of condo that you build through this kind of argument, you know, these 40-story towers, seldom answer the needs of the real Montrealers. You know, it's great to have 40 stories of Airbnbs and foreign investors sort of hiding their money here. But really, do we solve the crisis of housing with this? Not really. It's very good for the developer. We understand that. But at the same time, it's a false good idea in a way.
I understand.
What we do have the need is not necessarily to densify in terms of tower, you know, and so many developers confuse height and density. You know, I recall some years ago we went with Professor Schonauer at McGill. He was meeting with the Chinese Central Planning Authority, who had to deal with massive needs of housing, you know, compared to the needs in Montreal. Those of the gigantic migration in China were quite a different scale. And Professor Schonauer was sort of observing that in the, you know, with little adjustment, the traditional neighborhoods of Montreal offer a rather optimal and very humane scale of density to put a lot of people in a relatively small area. So the issue is how you densify and how you know, not densify, but how you provide the needed housing. And we feel towers is great for developer because they have one piece of lot, one project, you know, they can generate more profit per square inch. But that's not necessarily the main concern we should have when we do a planning thing. And so this is to set aside the myth that these towers, you know, will the tower that replaced the children's answer the needs of Montrealers in terms of housing?
Fair point.
Not sure of that. These are luxury condos.
Yeah, fair point. No, exactly. So Bridge Bonaventure is relatively far away from the mountain. I mean, it's and so I'm again here. I'm wondering why couldn't towers go up there? I mean, how do towers at Bridge Bonaventure affect the Mount Royal?
Well, you know, Mount Royal itself, if you look at it in plan, as you say, it's quite distant and so on, but Montreal is a city that's lived in 3Ds. You know, it's not just a plan. That's an issue with many of our planning documents is they're looking in 2 dimensions. You know, they forget about the topography, the sites and so on. They also forget about another dimension is the time. You know, the character of neighborhood and areas change with the hours of the day, the days of the week, and the weeks of the year. You know, winter is not the same in an area, in a forest of towers. You know, go to President Kennedy and Union in January and enjoy it. You know, but it's not because it's not close that it doesn't have an impact. And the issue of the mountain is that we've we've done some great effort to save the green spaces up there, and there's still more to be done in terms of biodiversity and so on. But the long views and the symbolic connection between the water of the river and the mountain is done through views from, let's say, the main lookout, which is now more and more a lookout towards, patio door of the condo towers.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you see the river, if not perhaps towards the Olympic Stadium, or maybe next to, you can get a view of it through by going next to the old the Montreal General Hospital. But in front of you, you've lost most of it. Even the effort done to have a new Champlain Bridge that's somehow worthy of the Great St. Lawrence has been a little diminished by the cramming of Nuns Island. So this is the kind of concern we have. It's not the immediate view. Does it encroach on Montreal? No, it encroaches on the fact that Montreal, a distinct landscape compared to Toronto, for instance, or I don't know, Vancouver did a lot of effort to avoid, and they've done huge construction in height, but they've done a lot of sort of view sheds and analysis to be very careful where they place buildings. Ottawa also, because of the symbolic nature of the Peace Tower, and this is also a consideration increasingly acknowledged in city planning, is the shape of the city, and not just the zoning in terms of where you put factories and where you put housing and where you put hospitals.
Absolutely. Okay, so I was under the impression that the developers and the city had sort of come to an agreement on the number of units and where they were going. So my ultimate question to you, Dinu, is what kind of impact can you have on the process at this juncture?
Well, there's currently a rather large consultation done by the OCPM, Office de Consultation Publique de Montréal. It's actually a follow-up to a consultation that took place in the old days, that is before the pandemic in 2019, on getting a sense of what should be the general orientation of the redevelopment of that very awkward areas. So to be honest with you, when you include in the same package the Peel Basin, the Technopark, Habitat 67, or let's say the Five Roses sign, you've got a cutout which is quite weird. But still, in 2019, some clear orientation came out that this is a place of jobs. It's not just a place of housing. There has to be coexistence. There's also a very significant heritage. The Five Roses sign, which we helped save from its dismantling in 2006. It's now an icon of Montreal. Everybody loves it. Well, the flour mill below it is a structure of the 1940s, but the activity goes back to the 17th century. It's the oldest industrial area activity we've got in the area. So there's a very diverse heritage in this area, and this came out very clearly out of the consultation in 2019. And now, 3-4 years after, the city is proposing a checkout, with an actual plan, which in general is a rather good plan, frankly, to be honest. Okay. And it balances things. There's a large potential for housing unit, which is acknowledged in the area, but also some principle to maintain not only the industrial fabric, the job creation factor, but also to improve the public spaces. The connection to the river, the connection with other neighborhood, which is now quite difficult. It's an area which is quite enclaved with the highways and stuff like that, including the REM. The REM and its and very subtle integration to the landscape with this sort of Soviet style implant. But anyway, so but we'll see. And to be honest, it seems to be quite an appreciated consultation. They had to extend the days of hearings until the 29th of June. So it's a clue that this is not something that will go unnoticed. And it's very healthy for a society like Montreal that 4 years after our first consultation, they come back to see, well, has it been understood properly? Is the proposal consistent with what we said before and agreed together, and so on? So it's a rather encouraging thing. Of course, things can be improved, and that's why there's a consultation. People need to participate.
Okay, Dinu, I'm running out of time. I have to let you go, but very insightful. Much. It's very insightful as always. Great talking to you, and thanks for your time.
And keep strolling, the summer is coming.
We'll keep strolling for sure. Thank you, Dinu.
Slalom through the orange cone.
All right, slalom. Dinu Bumbaru, Director of Policy at Heritage Montreal.